Coming up this week on TDL Synth Chat, Gilles Coudert joins me, and we're going to be talking about his synth journey over the years, including classics like the DX7, which he's a big fan of, and we'll be talking about some areas of the DX7, some classic synths that he's had like the JX-8P, ones that he didn't like so much. You'll hear an interesting story of two classic synths, or really good synths, that he exchanged for one probably not so good synth, so you'll hear that story as well. But we'll talk about his sort of journey through the 1890s, 2000 with all different synths, and buying those recently, some of those retro synths as well, and how he uses those. So I think you're going to enjoy this chat, talking about lots of different synthesizers and music technology. Gilles, welcome to the show.
Hi, good evening, Ian. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to get you on the show. We're going to do another one of our synths chats, sort of a journey into musical history of you and synths and that kind of thing. But before we start, I did want to say I love the images that we've got where with your synths behind you, but I do really like those hexagonal pads on the wall behind that just remind me of Simmons drum kits.
Well, yeah, it's my acoustic treatment. Yeah. There's more behind the camera there.
Is that what they're for? Is that they actually are?
It's acoustic treatment. I mean, obviously there's not enough in this room because I can't put anything on the ceiling. But it's better than nothing. Otherwise, it is quite echoey in here. Yeah,
no, it's good. But they actually look the part for a sort of retro synth thing. They absolutely look the part. Yeah. No Simmons drums were harmed during the making of this process.
No, and I've never owned any, I'm afraid.
I had one when I was about 18, 19. About that, and I kept sort of late 80s, early 90s. I had it for a few years, but that's when I lived with my parents, and they said when I was playing them, they could just hear the sort of the rat-a-tat sound all the time, because I used to play it with headphones.
And then when I got, you had?
Yeah, it's SDS7.
Oh, the 7, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, very nice.
I wish I'd kept it really, but when I was moving to my own place, and you can't keep everything.
No, of course not.
But then that's something we'll touch on later when I ask you about that stuff. So first, what I wanted to do is, we can obviously see you're a fan of synths and some nice looking synths behind you. So tell us a bit, how you got into music and how you then got into synthesizers.
Okay, well that's an interesting one actually. It all goes back to, I guess, the late 70s, early 80s, and my sister, who's 5 years younger, had this little toy piano, and I realized I could actually play melodies by ear. And so my parents were a bit intrigued by that, and they thought, okay, well, let's organize piano lessons for him, and they bought me this Bontempi organ. Do you remember that brand?
Oh yeah. It's the first mention of Bontempi we've had on the show, so that's good.
Oh really? Yeah. And so I had one of those. I mean, it was my Christmas present in 1979, I believe it was, and I was 12. And so that's how it all started. Starting playing along to my favorite songs and so on. And then one day, it was the same year, 1979. I remember watching fellow Frenchman Jean-Michel Jarre performing in concert, allegedly, on TV. Yeah, it's amazing, the sounds you could get just by moving randomly, the faders on a mixer. But anyway, that's another story. But and then I discovered his music and all these strange instruments that he had around him called synthesizers, and I thought that was absolutely amazing. But I didn't think much about it then, until a couple of years later, when I fell in love with an album, and I've got it here. Now, are you familiar with this record?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Time by ELO. That is the album that got me into synths, and I really became obsessed. I just wanted to know more about them and so on. And of course, at the time I was about 14 or something like that. I couldn't afford one. And a year or two later, I was walking past the shop window of one of the local music shops, in my French hometown of Chambéry in the Alps. And they had this Yamaha CP70 piano.
Oh,
and
I love that.
On top of it, was a brand new Roland Juno-60.
Oh, right.
And I thought, oh my God, this is amazing, you know. And I went in, I tried it a couple of times and so on, and I thought it was, you know, fantastic. You know, I was, you know, desperate, you know, to get one. And in fact, I did get one. It was my first synth, and that was in 1985, because those were the days when local musicians were getting rid of their analog synths, weren't they? Mm. Because they all wanted a DX7. And so I got one for about 6,500 French francs, which would have been £650 in roughly in 1985, and that was my first one. And then I got a couple of years. So I joined a band, and I decided I needed a second synth, and I got a JX3P.
Oh, I had one of those.
Yeah. And everyone was talking about this mysterious DX7 synth, you know, and all I knew really is, you know, was the E-Piano 1 patch that, you know, that you heard on every song in those days. Mm. Yeah. And I went to that same shop once. Someone was selling one for a good price, and I think they were moving out of town and they wanted a quick sale or whatever. And I'll be completely honest with you, you know, I thought I was going to be blown away by that DX7 and so on. I went in that shop, tried it, and I thought, nah, not for me. I didn't like the sound at all. So yeah, just carry on, you know, with my analog synths. And I did get an FM synth a little later. Do you remember the TX81Z? You know, the
yes, the rack mount
there, the 4-up. Yeah, I had one of those. Yeah. I think I must have bought it in around 89 or something like that. I didn't like that much. You know, it was the poor man's DX7 for me. You know, it didn't do it. So then, you know, I ended up moving to the UK in 1990, and you know, just, you know, noodling on the synths and that sort of thing, until one day I did decide, you know, to give the DX7 another go. And there was one particular band, you know, that got me into the DX7, and you probably haven't heard of them. And I've got 3 of their LPs here. It's a South African band called Johnny Clegg and Savuka. Have you heard of them?
No, I haven't. No.
No, I think they were one of the first racially integrated South African bands, you know, back in the 80s. Johnny Clegg died in 2019, but basically I went to see them in concert in 88, and they had 2 keyboard players with 3 synthesizers each, and half of those 6 synths were DX7s. And I thought, actually, can't be that bad, can it? So I had you know, another go, and I got a DX7S. Remember that one?
Yes, do. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was my first proper 6-op FM synth, and eventually I sold that on. I had a TX7 for a while, which I believe that's what you've got, yeah?
Yeah, it's got there, yeah.
That's a great little machine.
Yeah.
And then I got a Mark 1. Now, you'd never guess how much I paid for that.
Oh, what year would this have been?
2000 something.
Oh, fairly cheap then, I'm guessing. Couple £100.
Okay, £27.
Wow, that's a good deal.
It was battered, to be honest, but it had been sitting on eBay for months, and you know, I was watching it, and eventually I thought, okay, I'm going to pull the trigger on that. So I drove down to London and picked it up from this warehouse. It's like a kind of pawn shop warehouse type thing. And yeah, it came with it was battered, but it came with a hard case. And what the seller didn't know is that inside that was the Psychologic MX1 expansion. Have you heard of that?
I have a vague memory of that. To give me more memories, and was it multi-timbral, or did it add something else?
No, you're thinking of the D50 MEX, aren't you?
Yeah.
No, it's what it did. I mean, it basically made the let me get this right, the receive channel changeable because it's normally the transmit channel. Is hardwired to channel 1, so you could change that. It had, I believe, MIDI local on and off. Although don't quote me on that because I could be wrong. And it also gave 4 banks of 32 sounds internally.
Right.
And it was incredible. And I sold it on a few years later, and the guy I sold it to, I believe, and I don't know how he did that, but he traced it back to Dave Stewart of Eurythmics and his London studio.
Right.
So apparently, so that's my claim to fame, or one of them. Yeah. So I got so I had that Mark 1 for years, and it's only I had a TX802 as well.
Oh, that's the big rack one, isn't it, with the modules? Is it?
No, that's the 816. It's the rack mount version of the DX7 through the 2nd generation.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's multi-timbral, and I think it's got 64 patches, I believe, plus the cartridge, and that's one of the synths I wish I'd never let go of, because it was amazing. And so then I sold that in around 2018 when I got go on.
I was going to ask you about the DX7S and the Mark 1. So you've had them. I suppose you didn't have them at the same time, but
no.
Did you notice a difference in the sounds between the two?
Vaguely. The Mark 1 is a bit noisy.
Mm.
I find if you push the volume up, you get this hiss that you don't really get with the other one. But to be honest, inside a mix, you wouldn't know, would you?
Yeah. And especially because I know some people say, oh no, if you're going to get a DX7, you've got to get the Mark 1 because it's the original. Whereas people say, well, no, you can get the 2 or whatever. But it doesn't matter.
The thing is, the Mark 1, it's got its limitations, hasn't it? Because it's got that maximum velocity of 100 or whatever it is, and it's a pain if you're playing it, from another keyboard. I mean, I've got a Kronos here, and if I'm trying to play, some DX7 patches from that, of course they sound completely different because the Kronos can access the upper velocities, which the DX7 keyboard can't. And also, there's this issue, with MIDI channels and so on, but I still love it, it's a very special synth, So yeah, so
sorry I interrupted you there. So you was up to 2018.
Yeah. So 2018. That's the year I got the Korg Kronos, and that's why the TX802 went, because the Kronos can actually load banks of Sythex banks, from the DX7 Mark 1. And it does an amazing job, of reproducing those sounds. So I thought, well, I don't need the TX802 anymore. So I got rid of it and used the Kronos until last June, I believe it was, when I thought, well, actually, I quite like, programming the FM sounds on the synth itself. So I got this lovely Mark 1 here behind me, a little light above it. And I love this synth. I think it's incredible. The sounds that you can get on it. No other synth can make decent wood on wood, metal on metal sounds. The spiky FM sounds. It just sounds amazing. It goes really well with it. Everything else I have here.
Yeah, and there's something about the I noticed with the TX7. The especially with the velocity, there's just a playability with them that is hard to get on other on other synths.
That's right. Yeah, totally. But it's it was also a trip down memory lane for me. I mean, because even though I didn't own a DX7 until 1995, my first one, I did used one on stage a couple of times in the 80s, when I was in a band in France. I borrowed it from our sound guy after my rig was stolen, and I got it all back. But and it completely changed my sound. But it was great,
It's funny. I was talking to Rob Pericelli about the DX a few shows ago, and it's interesting the evolution of the way that the DX is perceived, isn't it? It's gone up, down, and back up again. Because when it first came out, like you said, it was so different, and you could get those sounds that you couldn't get on FM, and everybody sold their analog gear.
That's right. But likewise, you could not really get any of the sounds that you could get on analog gear. So, the best case scenario is to have one of each, I think.
Yeah, but then sort of into the 90s, the values of DXs completely went the other way, didn't they? Right down, because nobody wanted them because
absolutely
they were, because I think they were just dated, and they were everywhere, weren't they? I mean, every song from about 1985 to 1990,
the same presets.
Yeah. And then I think over the last maybe 10 years, the appreciation, maybe even longer, the last 20 years, the appreciation of FM has gone back up again as people reevaluate it for what you can do with it, which is not just creating a flute sound or an electric piano. It can do so much more than that.
No, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if you've seen, but there's a few people on YouTube who've been creating more modern sounds on the DX7. And it's quite, a lot of them are sharing their banks as well for free, and it's quite refreshing, to see that, such an old synth, that everyone calls dated, can actually, still find its place, in contemporary music. And
of course, I think a lot of the appeal as well in those days, especially for me watching, Top of the Pops as a teenager. Every Tuesday or whatever it was, and you'd see the groups on there, and they all played DX7s on Top of the Pops.
Yes,
because they were miming to. Yeah, they were miming to songs. It could have been anything, but to me, it just looked like, well, that's the one you need to have, because that's the one they were all playing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why I ended up with a DX100, because I couldn't afford a DX7, so I got a DX100.
Yeah, it remained quite expensive for some time, didn't it? Back in the 80s.
Yeah. So you found that since you've sort of gone back to FM and the original DX7, you've got to sort of appreciate it again.
Yes, I fell in love with it again. It's one of those things. After a while, you get fed up with something, and you go back and then realize, well, actually, it really is good. And this one's not going anywhere. It's a keeper. Yeah.
And you mentioned you're doing programming, like you like programming. So actually, are you doing dabbling programming on it?
I mostly modify existing presets. To be honest, I know how to, because I learned from that amazing book called The Complete DX7 by Howard Massey. I don't know if you've ever come across that.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a PDF version of it all over the internet. And it was a great book. I got a copy with my first DX7S, and I read that cover to cover several times. And it's great to learn FM programming. And I get on well, with the interface as well. It's not as bad as people think, because yes, there are menus, but they're not deep.
Yes. Yeah, yes, that's what I mean. The DX100's pretty much the same, and I used to program that. But of course, when I was trying to program it, I was trying to make the sounds that I heard in the charts, in the Top of the Pops, and think, why can't I make this Duran Duran type sound on my DX100? Yeah. Of course, they were using Fairlights and Jupiter 8s and everything
absolutely,
else.
Absolutely,
yeah. But and the other thing I think was as well, which perhaps younger listeners, viewers getting modern synths like the multi-poly that I've got here. There's no effects on these. It's completely dry, and all the productions you heard had full effects on.
Yeah, which is why also, when I first went into that music shop, to try one, being a digital FM synth, it sounded awfully dry. With analog synths, even if there are no effects, they still have that warmish sound, haven't they? So you can still get a feel for what it's going to sound like. With FM, it's totally unforgiving. It's you need effects on it.
In fact, what I did, I've got an old Boss RE1000 digital reverb delay, which I bought in the 90s, and I still have the TX7 patched into that.
Yeah.
So that
I do something similar.
Learning, when you're practicing and coming up with sound design, you give it a bit of warmth.
Yeah. No, I've got the Prophet and the DX7 plugged into the back of the Kronos, and I have a patch that has chorus delay and reverb, and that's what I put them through, because they're both really dry, because they have obviously no built-in effects.
Yeah, and I think that's and as we touched on with Rob a couple of weeks ago, that was kind of the downfall for the DX7, wasn't it? That since like the D50 and the M1 came out with effects, and all of a sudden it just sounded dated and dry.
Totally. I remember, first, I mean, I've got a D50 here as well, as you can see, but trying the D50 once in that record shop in 1987 must have been, and wow. I remember the guy from who worked in the shop. He just said, just listen to this. Switched it on, and the first preset, Fantasia, and wow, what a sound! Or that reverb as well.
It made such a difference. Yeah, and that's interesting. So you've got the D50 there. So so were you? Is it an instrument that you bought at the time, or is this something that's so recent?
It's my third one. I had one back in the 2000s alongside the DX7S. Then I sold that and I missed it, so I got a D550, the rack mount version. And then this one I bought back in not that long ago, actually. It must have been April, May, maybe. I can't remember, this year. It's in pretty good condition. It's a lovely thing.
That's another one of those. I got a D20 when that came out.
Friend of mine had one.
Because I couldn't afford the D50, but the D20 was nice actually, because although it's got the cut down engine a bit, it had the sequencer, multi-timbral, and the drum machine in it, so you could do the full thing. And I did love it for that. And I've got a D110 there with the sound, but I always wanted the D50 sound, but they're not they're not that expensive, are they, to get now, because they're not in demand that much, and there's plenty of them around.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and the D50, I can't remember how much I paid for that one. Maybe £350, something like that. Because there's also the DO5, the boutique desktop unit, that Roland have released, and I guess people might prefer that one because it's not much more expensive than a second-hand D50, and you're not risking, the red glue problem.
Have they got the red glue on the D50?
I think they do. Yeah, I mean, I haven't got that problem, but I believe the D50 is one of the red glue synths.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's an amazing machine. I mean, I just wish they hadn't put so much reverb on the presets. Because at least on the D550, there's an overall reverb control on the rack mount version, which the keyboard version hasn't got. So if you want less reverb, and you want to save the patch, you need to sacrifice one of the internal memory locations.
Oh, of course, yeah. And that's something that with modern synths, I've doing presets on the multi-poly, and you just I'll just save another version B, version C. It doesn't matter because you've got infinite memory, but you've got limited storage. Yeah,
it's the same with the DX7. It's I mean, I use a librarian, but it's still a bit of a hassle, really, working with only 32 presets plus the RAM. I've got a RAM cartridge as well. One of those, one of the original ones.
Oh yeah,
recognize those.
Yeah.
And but it's great.
I suppose, and that's another thing that I suppose why there was. You end up with your sound, because you get your DX7, you tweak it. And back in the day, you couldn't. Maybe you did have a cartridge, but even if you did, you would probably leave the 32 as your 32 sounds, wouldn't you? And that became your sound then, rather than having just an infinite library of sounds.
Yeah, but most of the time, it was a compilation of the best presets from the cartridges, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so you got E bass one, E piano, the flute,
yeah, which is what I've done as well. Yeah, and variations thereof.
And that one there looks like it's got a different display on it, as it because it hasn't got the same displays as the standard.
That's right. I mean, the problem I had, let me just turn this light off. And by the way, just to let you know, even though my phone is plugged in, it's telling me that I've only got 20% battery left, and I don't quite understand why. So just if I suddenly disappear, that's what's happened. Okay, and
okay,
I call you back.
Okay.
Anyway, yes. About a month ago, I bought this backlit display, and it's so easy to fit. It's unbelievable. It took about 15-20 minutes, no more, and it really is great. And also, the good thing about the DX7 is that there's only 5 screws to take out, to get inside it. So the ones in the corner, the ones at the back by the power supply, and then you just lift the panel, and it is very, very easy to replace. And there was a choice of colors, and I went for the yellow on black one. Don't know if you can see it where you are, just about. And so what I did before that, so I had this LED strip which is stuck to a piece of masking tape under the D50, and I thought, amazing, I'm going to be able to get rid of that. But of course, now I can see the display, but I still can't see the buttons and the parameters and so on. So I've kept this.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, this is it is a must, so you can actually see what you're doing.
And have you still got the sort of the factory ROMs in there, or have you investigated any of the special ones?
Yeah, I replaced the original ROM with the SCR7 special edition ROM. I have mixed feelings about that one. I won't lie to you. And the reason is it plays up quite a bit. And I don't know if it's my synth, the EEPROM that I received, whatever. But what tends to happen every now and then is that, how on the DX7 Mark I, if you press, internal and then you select the sounds, you're still working within the internal bank, and if you press cartridge, then you select the cartridge sounds. Occasionally it plays up and you have to press cartridge before you select every time you change patches,
right?
And other times it doesn't do it, or sometimes I just switch it off, switch it back on again, but it is a bit annoying because it does it quite a lot.
Yeah, a bit frustrating changing through the panels.
Yeah, but otherwise, I mean, it's so cheap. You can get it, from eBay for about £10 or something like that.
And what do you get for that? What's sort of the special?
Okay, well, I've written it down because I've got the memory of a goldfish, and basically what you get. Okay, so first of all, how on the Mark I the function parameters are global to the bank. You can now have function parameters for each voice.
Right.
So different, aftertouch settings, for one, and then, different pitch bend for the other one, that sort of thing. Okay. Also on the Mark I, when you adjust the master tuning of the DX7, there's no numerical value next to it. So you have to tune it by ear. Now it's got a value.
Yeah, because the TX7 doesn't have that. That's got a numeric value on it.
It has?
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay. No, yeah,
sure it has, yeah.
Okay. You can also switch on or off program change and control change messages over MIDI. And you can also transmit sound data, the sysx data, for a single patch rather than one whole bank at a time.
The whole bank,
if you want to. You can also initialize the function parameters for a single voice, rather than initializing the whole bank at a time. They've added Omni mode as well to MIDI. And you can select the transmit channel, which used to be channel 1 only, if you remember. You can turn aftertouch transmission that on or off. And also the modulation input that can be used to send MIDI volume if you connect a pedal to it, and that can be saved for each patch as well. And the other thing I meant to mention about this SCR thing, which is that is a major annoyance. When you plug in one of the cartridges and you have one set of function parameters, okay, so say for example, you select in one of the lead sounds, you get some pitch bend, you get a little bit of vibrato on the mod wheel. Well, the problem is with the SCR7, or maybe it's just the one I have, everything is set at 0. So there's literally no pitch bend, no aftertouch, no modulation, nothing. And of course now it is available per patch, but because it's a ROM cartridge, you can't save to it, can you?
No.
So then that means losing another slot on the other cartridge or on the internal memory and so on. So that is a bit frustrating, but I mean I can see it being more problematic for someone who actually gigs, but I'm a studio guy, so
yeah,
I can work around it. But yeah.
And if you're really taking a bit of a risk, I guess taking a 40-year-old synth gig, I know people do, but I suppose the DX7s are pretty well built and they are pretty solid.
Yeah, for their age. I mean, you think, when did they come out? 1983.
Yes.
And that's a long time ago. I mean, I was 16 when that came out. So.
Yeah, it's amazing, really, isn't it, that they've sort of got they still have a special place in the heart for a lot of people, and people that aren't just listening to it from a nostalgic value, because people are coming to them, young people come to them and bring,
that's right,
like you said earlier on, creating new patches and making new sounds on them for new music.
Yeah.
I noticed also you've got the sequential there. So is that one of the issues of the Prophet-5?
Yeah, it's a Rev 4 from 2021, 2022. I can't remember what year that came out. And I bought that second hand. I've had it about a year now. And it was almost new when I bought it. And again, that's a fantastic machine. I've always adored the sound of the Prophet-5. There's just something about it. So I used the Arturia one for ages, and I loved that as well. It sounds really good. And I thought, actually I quite fancy the real one, so I can actually program sounds just using actual knobs and and they've done a really good job, and they've added a velocity sensitivity and aftertouch, and the keybed is incredible. It's the best one I've ever seen on any synth. It really is fantastic. It's a beautiful synth as well, so.
It definitely looks apart, and it's like you said, it's a nice combination with you can get the digital sharpness sound with the DX7 and combine with that warmth of the Prophet.
Exactly. Yeah. Although the limitation of 5 voices actually makes it quite difficult, to layer the sounds together. So if you sort of play them separately, it's fine. But if you MIDI one to the other, it is quite limiting. So it would work better with something like the Jupiter X that I've got down here. I don't know if you can see it.
Yes, we can.
On the screen, but that's got massive polyphony as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've played them in I think it was at Synfest and stuff, but I haven't actually spent much time. Do you how do you find that Jupiter X?
To be honest, I mean I love it, but I use it in the same way as we would have used any polysynth back in the 80s. It's got so many different engines in there, but I find myself using the Jupiter 8 or the Jupiter X engine the most in there. I didn't really use all the bells and whistles, the arpeggiator and all that sort of thing. I'll just use it as just a standalone synth, and it does it for me. It may not sound perfectly like a Jupiter 8, but it's close enough to my ears. So that's why I bought it. It's the next best thing. I'll never be able to afford a Jupiter 8. So but it is a very good synth. Very, very, very reliable. The problem with it, I would say, is that they wasted lots of space here in the middle. I don't know if you can see that where I'm pointing there.
Yeah.
They should have put the screen here. They put it in the far left corner of the synth. And, I find myself twisting my neck, when I try and program sounds, especially now that it's on the bottom tier of my stand.
Yeah,
but,
I know what you mean.
There's one little annoyance. Otherwise, it really sounds great.
Yeah, and you can get sort of plug-ins. So
Yeah, well, yeah. That's what Roland like. I call this abandonware. Because they tell you, oh, we are going to create this, we're going to create that. In fact, they've only created 2 expansions for it. One is the JD800, which I haven't got, and the other one is some vocal processor,
right,
something like that. And they all came out, I don't know, it's at least 3 years ago now. And I've lost all hope, of seeing Roland, produce anything for this. I think they're putting all their money into Roland Cloud at the moment and Synology and so on. But they're pretty much abandoned the Jupiter X. But it's fine. It for me it does what it says on the box. And yeah.
It's funny, isn't it, to mention a few times to different people on the shows that musical instruments don't age in the way like a lot of other technology does. So like you're using that DX7 there and it's doing the job perfectly for you, but you probably wouldn't want to use with a ZX Spectrum or a BBC Micro as your main DAW because it's just not. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there doing exactly just that, but but there is still that desire. Something about having the actual hardware. You can get plugins and, like you said, the Kronos and everything else, but there's something about having the actual hardware from the era.
Yeah, it's for me. I mean, there is an element of nostalgia, but I much prefer programming sounds on hardware, even on something like the DX7 that hasn't got. Well, it's basically got just one slider, hasn't it, and lots of buttons. But still, it's not the same as, I don't know. I mean, using a mouse, to move faders and pots and so it doesn't really do it for me. It's not as immediate. It's not. I like something tangible.
I think you're definitely right because I'm doing a lot of programming on the multipoly and the mod wave and the wave state, and I do all the sound design on a combination of the hardware and the editor. And I very rarely do the sound design in the native versions, even though they're there and just as convenient. There's something about having the keyboard here, turning the amp envelope, and there's something about doing that. And then I find that when you're actually working on a track, then I'll use the native version because I've already done the sound design and it's ready to go. So yeah, there is something about it, and I've got the plugin of the Op6. And I just haven't got on with it because I haven't got the physical one. And I wonder whether sometimes it's because I really should either spend the time with the software, or if I got the hardware one, I'd get more out of it.
Yeah, I didn't realise there was a plug-in version of the Op6. I thought it was only hardware. No?
Yes, there is. Yeah, it's the Op6 native, and it's really good, but I just don't get into programming it like I have with the other Korg synths, and I think I wonder if it's because I've only got the software version of that, whereas the others have got both.
So is it compatible with DX7?
Yes, you can import DX7. Yeah, although the envelopes are different. They're ADSR envelopes.
Yeah, so 10% battery.
Okay, we might be okay then actually.
Yeah.
The envelopes are ADSR, so of course the envelopes on a DX7 are a lot more complicated. So
yeah, just like the D50. Yeah, just too many parameters. Yeah. And you have to refer to the chart, on the top panel all the time because you never know which one's which.
Yeah, and I think that's probably quite a good decision by Korg to use just the standard ADSR because that is what you. But I have imported sort of the factory presets and a lot of the other ones, and they sound okay. Yeah, they sound good. Yeah, if you do them side by side, you can tell the envelopes aren't the same, so sometimes you need a bit of tweaking. But it does work.
Because I find on the Kronos, I mean, 99% of the sounds are virtually identical, but there is one sound that doesn't convert very well from the DX7 to the Kronos, and that's the E-Bass 1
Oh, right, yeah.
patch. For some reason, I don't know what it is, it just doesn't sound right. So for years I used a multi-sampled version of it instead, because that sounded better than the Kronos version. And now, of course, I've got this one. But I don't know what it is, but generally speaking, it does sound amazing. Every sound is just like I remembered it.
Yeah, it's impressive, isn't it? And like I said, there's Dext as well, and there's other
I've got
plugins.
That too,
yeah. But there's something about having the actual hardware. That's why I like the TX7. And I bought the TX7 because I always wanted a DX7. Never could afford when I was young. But I just haven't got space for it. Because it's a big synth as well, the DX7. It's not a little compact one.
It's heavy.
Yeah,
it's very heavy.
So I got the TX7 and I use DX Manager from FM Live, which is a really good tool. And you can almost do real time because it sends every parameter change. It sends it down real time.
Yeah, I think DXZ does that as well, doesn't it?
I think it does. Yeah.
Yeah, because I use it mostly as a librarian, not as an editor. But again, it's going back to what I was saying earlier. using the mouse and so on. It defeats the purpose for me.
And that's the limitation with the TX7 is because there's no editing on the front panel at all. It's all it's expected to be sat on top of a DX7, and you do it from the DX7.
No, that's right. Yeah, it's still a neat little machine. I guess you could always get a second one if you wanted more, multi-temporality or whatever. It's
I still harbour after a DX7 though, but you said the big, heavy, and I have no space. I got the DW-8000 not long ago.
Oh, so, I had one. That was my fourth synth.
That's a lovely. It's got some lovely sounds, and I've done the patch, the pad sound that I have, which is on 1.1, is just so usable. I do like that.
It was many years ago. I sold it back in '92, I believe it was, '91 maybe. And I used to love the feel of the keys, and the aftertouch on it was just perfect. Because what it's like with the Roland synth, you practically have to sit on the keyboard, to activate it.
Yeah.
And as for the Kronos, you have to you jump on it. Whereas the DX7 and the Prophet pretty much got it right. But the DW-8000, I seem to remember was fantastic.
Sadly, it does no longer works on mine because over time, Although you can use. I've got a key stage which does the poly aftertouch, and you can send it through MIDI. So
yeah. Did you get the cassette with the presets on it?
No. Actually, yes, I did. Yes, I've got a bag with them. Yeah, somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, because there was I think it was double-sided audio cassettes that you could load into the DW-8000.
Yes,
back in the day.
Yeah, and I've still got all my DX100 tapes as well somewhere. With patches on those. In fact, talking of synths you sold, so something I always like to ask is, we all go through the journey with synths and buying and selling ones. So what are the synths that you've sort of sold and you think, I really wish I hadn't done that?
Okay, you will never believe what I did. Now this talking about the DW-8000. So I had this DW-8000 in mint condition with a hard case, brand new hard case and so on. And I also had a Roland JX-8P with a PG-800 programmer with its original case, the little silver case with it, a hard case, both of them mint condition, right? I swapped the whole lot for a broken Korg M1.
Oh dear. I think that makes the headline for the podcast there.
Yeah, and I cannot believe I did this, especially when I turned out to hate the M1. It's my least favorite synth. But it's one of those things,
when the new so was this when the M1 was first out? Was it? would it have
No,
been?
it was a few years later. It first came out in '88, didn't it? I think that was '92. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 1992. I was just fed up of the JX and DW sounds. I wanted something new, something a bit more fresh, and I thought, yeah, well, let's give the M1 a go.
Yeah,
And that shop in Watford had one, and did a straight swap. Big mistake.
yeah, especially those JX8Ps have got a lovely sound to them.
Oh, there's something about them. Yeah, I know. I miss it. It's probably not the synth I miss the most, of the ones I've had. That would be the JP8080. I don't know if you ever had one of those.
No, I hadn't. No, I haven't. No.
Oh, it sounds incredible. I wish I hadn't sold mine. I mean, I bought it and sold it maybe a couple of years later for about 6.5, 700. So yeah, 650, 700 pounds. And when you look at the prices, that people ask for them now, it's unbelievable. But
yeah,
they are very good.
Yeah, so that's your biggest regret selling.
Probably that and the TX802 as well. I wish I'd kept that. Yeah.
And they don't take. That's the nice thing about the rack mount. They don't take a lot of space up, do they?
Yeah, but that's the thing. Because I mean, you probably can't see this, on my screen, but this place is really, really cramped. I've got this tiny little room. It's like not even 2 meters by 3, whatever. And plus, this massive stand, with the synths taking up all the space, and the desk with the Kronos on top and the Mac, and takes up the whole room. So yeah.
Yeah, so I was thinking that's the nice thing about the racks. You can sort of tuck them away out of the way. So yeah, they are quite good for that. And what about ones that you've sort of had that you think? I suppose you've already answered this one, but sort of that were popular that you think were totally overrated. I suppose the M1 has to be the.
Yeah, I never liked the M1 because no matter what you did to those samples, you could still recognize them. The filters were so bad, it's unbelievable. But there's one I hated even more, and that was the Roland D-70.
Oh, that's interesting. We're doing a special on that in a few weeks' time. We've got someone that's. I'd
love to watch that. If someone can convince me that he was a good synth, but it's essentially a glorified U110 or U220. That's all it is.
Yeah,
I didn't like it. I mean, as a controller keyboard, it's amazing, and but it's also without the manual, it's unfathomable. That synth, it's so complex to use. The user interface is so unfriendly. It really is terrible. I really didn't like it.
Yeah, I think we'll get the full story on when we do that show. But I think it was a marketing, definitely marketing department naming a D when it really should have been a U.
Yeah, but apparently, if you open it, some of the circuit boards, I think, or maybe some of the chips are actually labeled U50, something like that.
Yeah,
I haven't checked, but yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah, so stay 2 or 3 weeks time. So I think we're doing that one. So so okay. you stay tuned for that one. You'll find out more about that.
I'll watch and comment.
Yeah,
probably negatively.
and then the other side to that is what is sort of synth. There's two questions to this really. What synth is out there that you would love to get, and I suppose money was no object, and is there a synth out there that's on your radar because it is one that you think it might be worth purchasing?
At the moment, I haven't. There's nothing I have my eyes on because I'm quite happy with what I've got. If I had a lot of money, I would probably get, if I could, maybe a Fairlight CMI or 2X or something like that, just to have a go at the workflow. I think see. Yeah. Let's see what that's like.
Yeah, that's fun. Well, I can recommend. I'll try and find the name of it. There is a version that you can get that runs on the PC,
Yeah, Quasar or something
That was
like
it.
that.
Yeah.
I've got it on the Mac.
Yeah.
It's it is a bit buggy, and it's also not yet MIDI compatible, I think.
Yeah, I did have a quick play with it, and
Yeah,
I quite liked it. I had the idea of I couldn't get it to really work how I wanted, but if they had a Linux version, I've got a Raspberry Pi that would be perfect. So you could build a Raspberry Pi Fairlight, but it was a Windows or Mac version. So I didn't do that. But yeah, it's a good thing. But yeah, I totally get where you're coming from that, because again, that takes me back to seeing the Pet Shop Boys on Top of the Pops with the Fairlight. I want one of those.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, among others. Yeah, it was such a popular machine, wasn't it? In the 80s. I mean, it cost a fortune then.
And in fact, that's another trail for another forthcoming show. I'm going to be talking about Fairlight with Rob Puricelli towards the end of the year. So we will have a special on the Fairlight. So
that was amazing. I remember him mentioning that on the program you did with him.
So we're going to follow that toward, I think in December we're going to do a full show on the Fairlight. So so that's your sort of your desert island. Oh, well, actually, that's not the question. If you had a desert island synth, so you can take one with you, which one would you take?
The Prophet.
Yeah.
I'll take the Prophet-5, I think. And
a nice pair of headphones. That would be fine.
and lots of batteries or whatever, a nuclear power station or something.
Interesting. You just have to train yourself to the 5 voice limitation.
You get used to it. I mean, what you have to remember when you play your Prophet-5 is not to play like octaves, with your left hand. It's single notes only. Because they will cut off abruptly.
I think 5 is actually a smart decision. I've got an MS-2000 which is up there, which I love. Since I bought it in 2000, but the 4 voice is a bit of a limit. So you've got 1 finger and 3.
It's not
a bit tight. Yeah,
I used to have one of those Roland boutiques, the JP-08, the Jupiter one. I didn't keep that very long because that was limited to 4 voices as well, and I couldn't really do anything with it. But it sounded amazing, but it's 4 voices. I mean, what can you do with that?
That's why the MS-2000's up there, really, because I do like it, but I get stuck with that 4 voice limit.
I think the 6 is about right. I mean, I remember the Juno and the JX-3P that I had, and there was 6 voice, and that was about right. I don't remember notes ever cutting off on that.
I think that's my I've mentioned it on the show a few times. That's the synth I regret. So I had a JX3P with programmer, with PG 200 programmer, I sold.
I had the PG 800 with the JX-8P, but I never had the 200.
Although it's only when you think back to it had a lot of quirks, and you couldn't have the programmer on and MIDI running at the same time, I think, on the 3P.
And MIDI was omni on all the time, wasn't it? You couldn't actually select the receive channel, could you?
I think it was the MIDI and there's a switch on the back. I think it was the MIDI or the programmer. So
correct.
that and the you couldn't tempo sync the sequencer, which was a bit of a shame, or arpeggiators. So in that's sort of 20 years of forgetting that bit and remembering playing with it. That's why
I used to have a Korg DDM 110 drum machine back in the day, and I used to trigger the JX3P sequencer and the Juno-60's arpeggiator from that, because one of these sounds, it was either the rim shot or the clap, I can't remember what it was. There was a separate output for that, and you could use it as a trigger. And I remember programming basic sequences on the JX3P, playing with the drums, and I could go faster, slow them down. And, it was quite cool. Good old days.
And I think that creativity, that those limitations, and brought in a lot of creativity, which is created the sound of the 80s, really. Especially the early synth pop stuff. Those limitations were. And now we kind of get spoiled with having everything all the time.
That's very true. I find that with soft synths as well. You've got absolutely every sound you can imagine, and it's a creativity killer. Sometimes I find if I'm working on a project, if I can, I try and limit myself to maybe 3 of these, and let's see how that works, and the result is usually better. I think so anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I understand what you mean. I do this when programming as well. Sometimes the multi-poly, I think, okay, I'm going to make a track like they would have done in this era. So what synth went with that? So you kind of think, well, you would have had a 6-note poly synth, maybe a mono synth, and a drum machine, and bring those together, or go back a bit further, maybe. Yeah. So I think it does help trigger that creative process when you have those limitations.
Yeah, definitely.
And even when I do sound design, I don't often come to it cold and go, okay, I'm just going to make. I to think, okay, I'm going to restrict myself to using these oscillators or these waveforms, and then you start to build something up. Yeah.
I try and vary the waveforms. If I'm using the same synth on the same project, I make sure that if I've used one sound with sawtooth, the next one is going to be a pulse width modulation type sound, something like that. So it doesn't sound too much texture wise to the previous one. If I can, but otherwise, if it sounds good, it's good.
yeah, exactly. And it's I think we've got the best of all worlds now, because we've still got access to the old gear, and we've got these modern DAWs that unlimited multi-track recorders, unlimited undos, and all that. Yes. which is for when if you started out back, I have a Spectrum with a little MIDI sequence on there. This is just what you dreamt of that you can have now.
I know, it's amazing. I started on with sequencing on a Commodore Amiga 500. I bought the interface for that, which is quite expensive, and then I got an Atari 1040 ST and used Cubase with that for years, well into the 90s. And until I got a PC with a more modern version of Cubase, and now I use Studio One and have done for years. But it's amazing how far the technology has come. Yeah,
it is, and yet we've still got vintage synths, and we're still using those. Yeah, so just funny. We were just about to wrap up, and your battery died, but it did really well actually for the whole call.
Yeah, it did.
Well, it's been absolutely brilliant chatting. I really enjoyed that.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great. Are there any places we can you want to promote, or links or anything where we can hear some of your stuff?
Well, basically, what I do mostly is elaborate instrumental covers, and I have a YouTube channel, but it's not really videos I make. It's mostly audio. Mm-hmm. So it's called the 80s Fan, and 80s as in 80S.
Well, that's brilliant. If you send me the link to that, I'll put a link in the description for the video. So
thank you.
Can check that out.
It's unmonetized, so I just do this for pleasure. There's about 100. I was going to say videos, 100 tracks. On their instrumental ones. A lot of them are French songs, that people will never have heard of, but there's a few famous ones. Some are good, others aren't. That's the way it is. I'll just do it for pleasure.
Yeah, well, that's a very good reason for doing it. And it's nice to be able to get a bit of pleasure from the kit gear that you've got, isn't it? And it gives you a reason to do it. So absolutely brilliant chatting to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks very much for that, and we'll speak to you again in the future.
Yeah, thank you, Ian. Speak to you soon. Bye.